never fit, not fully, not loudly, but in ways too quiet for anyone else to notice. You felt things others didn't name. You heard silence louder than voices. You cried in places where no one else even blinked. They told you were sensitive, moody, too much. But deep down, you always knew. It wasn't that you were too much. It was that the world was too little for what you carried inside. You weren't broken. You were misplaced. Dropped into families who couldn't feel, schools that punished questions, rooms where survival meant shrinking, and so you learned how to hold your breath and call it peace, how to dress your intuition in logic so they'd stop calling you dramatic, how to pretend you were fine when your entire body screamed otherwise. They didn't see you, so you started disappearing on purpose. They didn't ask you who you were, they told you. You're the strong one. You're the helper. You're the quiet one. You're the emotional one. And you performed. You became what was needed. Not because it was true, but because it was safer. You thought love meant losing parts of yourself to stay close. You thought loyalty meant enduring the cost without receipt. You thought maturity meant managing your pain without asking for help. And one day, you woke up and didn't recognize your own reflection. Not because something changed, but because you had edited yourself so many times to stay digestible, palatable, safe, that you forgot what your soul looked like before the edits. This is what Jung called the shadow. Not evil, not bad, just the parts of us we were told were unacceptable. And you've been living as half of what you truly are. It starts quietly. The day you stop laughing at what hurts. The day you say no and don't explain. The moment you walk into a room and no longer check who you need to be today. You stop adapting. You stop apologizing for your depth. You stop shaving off the sharp edges just to keep the peace. You begin to remember the fire, the voice you buried, the hunger for something more than praise for being polite. You don't need to be fixed. You need to be witnessed. This is your reclamation. Not from people, but from the idea that belonging was ever supposed to cost you your truth. You are not wrong for feeling too much. You are not fragile for breaking under what would have crushed anyone. You are not lost. You are returning. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And becoming means burning the false self without apology. You weren't too much. You were just surrounded by people who were too afraid to feel. They called you intense because you didn't pretend. They called you broken because you stopped playing nice with your wounds. But now you see it. You were never the chaos. You were the mirror. And people destroy mirrors before they face themselves. You can stop trying to be normal. You can stop trying to shrink. You can stop translating your soul into a language they'll clap for. This space, this sanctuary, is not for that. It's for those who remember who they were before the edits, before the compromise, before survival became identity. You don't need to heal fast. You don't need to explain your distance. You just need to breathe again in a room that finally understands why you went quiet. This isn't content. It's recognition. You don't need to be better. You just need to be home. If the videos here feel like memory, if the words feel like they were written inside you long before you press play, and stay, come back. You don't need to pretend here. This space was made for the misplaced, the misunderstood, the ones who were called broken just because they saw too much. You are not too much. You are just too true for a world built on pretending. Return. Leave your story in the comments, not for validation, but to finally be heard without explanation. You've been gone long enough. Now come back as everything they tried to bury. You were never broken, just misplaced. But now, you're home.